making their way and walking from various points around City Hall, first being by the Municipal Services Building and now going, it seems like they're walking away from where there was a large group gathered on the west side of City Hall. It remains peaceful right now. It looks like the crowds are dispersing but making their way away from City Hall at this point. Many of them, of course, carrying signs. Many of them come in peace as they're protesting and outraged over the death of George Floyd. We did see some clashes with police that up until that point had remained mostly peaceful, as people tried to make their way into the Municipal Services Building, and there was some vandalism of the Frank Rizzo statue, as well as police cars that were flipped over, one that caught on fire, but we did even see from Brandon's angle that the smoke had dispersed there. So we're not seeing as much smoke in the air because the fire department had shown up there. It looks like traffic once again is moving through around the circle of City Hall. So it looks like traffic has then opened up again, but there are plenty of people still on the street, not in the large group that we were seeing earlier. Of course, this protest began at noontime and continues now some 6.5 hours later, with those now gathered mostly around the west side of City Hall. Of course, police are saying, don't come into this area at this point, as the crowds are being worked with, and they're here, and they're trying to keep everything peaceful here. Let's go now to NBC 10's Drew Smith. Oh, we don't have Drew Smith at this point. Okay. So right now, of course, we're seeing some accounts of vandalism, but paper around the area, some litter, but of course we've got many people out here with signs. We do see a bit of that smoldering vehicle. If Skyforce 10 can go over to near where the Municipal Services Building is at, there at JFK, where earlier that police car had been flipped over and was in flames, and black smoke was coming from it, but the fire department is there now, putting out those flames. They've been out there for the past half hour, 45 minutes or so. But cases of vandalism. But of course, people started getting out here around noontime in what was a peaceful protest gathering outside City Hall, the MSB building, and protesters moving in various areas, and now mainly around City Hall at this point. But there we see some of the aftermath, a couple of other cars, police vehicles, that have been charred, as well as the one that had been flipped over there on the side. Some folks seem like they're walking around, maybe to check out what's going on. Others part of the protest, who came peacefully, and then those who began to start trouble. We were hearing from early reports from our reporters that there had been at least one arrest, and we're waiting to hear about updates on arrests and also officers that may have been injured at this point. We do see a line of officers that are streamed around the west side of City Hall, where it seems like most of the protesters are at this point. We see those officers, some in SWAT gear as well. And that line really was much closer to the building probably half an hour ago, but it looks like slowly the crowd is being pushed away from City Hall at this point. Some of that debris that we see, the trash and the debris out there, some of it has been lit on fire there. We do see some black smoke coming from, it looks like that the building is on fire at this point. I don't know if that was that building looks like it might have been, if we can confirm, but there was a kiosk there, a little business there, but it looks like it's really catching on fire. We saw some smoldering that was happening with some of the debris. Now it looks like the little building there is now becoming fully engulfed in flames. The fire department, we know, is just around the corner, working on the car, the police vehicle that was flipped over and set on fire. But now we see that building is now caught fully on fire. We are now on the ground in Center City, now here at Skyforce 10 again above that fire that's burning. Some of these protesters have decided to take other means and cause some violence and some chaos here. But for the most part, the protesters who have been out here have come peacefully and to send a message about what happened to George Floyd. Okay, so it is confirmed that this was the small business, the Starbucks, that was near the west side of City Hall, and now it's on fire. We just saw it just minutes ago, starting from just the ground. Somebody set it on fire, and then the building caught fire. And now we're waiting for the fire department to now respond to this building that's on fire here. And as we pull out, we see Skyforce 10 is over the crowd that is gathered and further pushed away. We see no one near that area there where Starbucks is on fire. But we do see the crowd that has mainly gathered here on the west side. And officers are slowly pushing that crowd closer to the street and away from City Hall. They're using, their bikes as barricades to keep the crowd, to keep that line around City Hall, including what we see here is this building, small building on fire, a very small building where they served coffee there for Starbucks. But right now there are people out in the street on the west side of City Hall. We saw the fire department on the north end still working on that other vehicle. We're just kind of waiting for them to get to this side. But it looks like there's nobody near that area, just for safety purposes, that they're being kept away and moved closer to the street and away from the building at this point. Looks like the crowd is manageable. It's peaceful at this point. But there have been problems earlier today, including acts of vandalism to a bank, cars being vandalized, including police vehicles and state police cars as well. And right now, police are been fully dispatched out here outside City Hall and the Municipal Services Building, forming lines to protect property and to protect people as well. So right now, we're waiting for the fire department. They have not yet arrived to this one section of this, and it looks like it's just going to be burning until they could get to it. They're not too far away. They're just on the other side of City Hall working on that, but it probably taking some time to get to this building. Of course, protests happening here in Philadelphia over outrage of the death of George Floyd. That's all these protests happening throughout the country. All right, thanks for joining us. Nightly News begins now, and we will see you tonight at 11.